When Mount Everest was first summited in 1953 by Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, Rolex provided some watches for the pair and would make the claim that their watch was the first watch to reach the top of the seemingly insurpassable geographical landmark. The monumental achievement would soon be widely celebrated and lead to the creation of the Rolex Explorer, a watch with a unique 369 dial that was under Rolex's Oyster Perpetual line but branched off into its own line. Since then, the 369 dial has been nicknamed the Explorer dial as it is often associated with the 1016 Rolex dial that made it famous. However, shortly after making these claims, Rolex would soon receive a strongly worded letter from Smith's Watch Company, a British company, calling them out for their claim. Smiths rebutted their statement, saying that they assuredly provided several instruments, watches in particular, to the two climbers who summited Everest. This meant that Rolex's claim was nothing more than a marketing stunt, and it was actually Smith's Watch Company that made it to the top first. From that point on, Rolex would change the wording in all their advertisements and instead say that Rolex watches are on Mount Everest pretty often and worn by adventurers and explorers. Even today, you can go onto their website and they'll speak about how their watches accompanied the two climbers on Everest, showcasing photographs of the climb. But nowhere does it actually say it was the first watch to summit Everest, because the first watch to actually summit Everest was a Smith's Deluxe. Hello everyone, my name is Vincent, but you can call me Vince. Today we're going to be talking about a very, very cool and underrated watch. However, based off my introduction, you would probably be thinking it would probably be a Rolex 1016 Explorer, or maybe a Smith's Deluxe from the 50s. However, it's actually neither of those. Today, we'll be taking a look at a watch that draws inspiration from the Explorer and the Deluxe. It may not have the legacy of daring adventurers half a century ago achieving near impossible feats, but they had the reliability, sensibility, and design of timekeeping instruments used by professionals of days gone by and today. Let's take a peek at the Vaer S3 Tradition. The Vaer is kept in a sensical 36mm brushed stainless steel case, but they do offer a larger 40mm size as well, along as an American quartz version and an automatic version for both sizes. There are some polished edges on the lugs and on the lower edge of the bezel, which frames the dial beautifully and keeps it nice and versatile, where it's not too rugged, but also not too dressy. A signed screw-down crown keeps a nice 100 meters of water resistance, and a sapphire crystal keeping it ready for the toughest of tasks that may be thrown your way. When purchasing from their site, you do have several options, either on a base canvas and rubber strap combo, or you can go for nicer leathers and even a bracelet option. The watch is powered by a Miyota quartz movement, but there are both automatic and American quartz variations, like mentioned before. On the dial is an impressive and bright green lume, which lasts for quite a while. And the best part is that most of the markings are lumed, though I do find it strange the writing and minute track are browned, as if they were aged luminescent material as well. If you look at historical photos of the Rolex 1016 or the Smiths or basically any other watch that has this tritium lume patina, basically the writing stays stark white, or off-white at the very least, but a visible difference is what I'm trying to get at. Anyhow, there's minimal writing on this version of the watch besides the 10 atmospheres denomination and the name at the 12 o'clock. The watch itself measures a curt and classic 36mm across with a 43mm lug-to-lug and a roughly 8.5mm thickness, which granted, it is a quartz watch, so of course it's going to be thinner. However, it does wear very nicely on the wrist as a result. It's a real no-nonsense and utilitarian size, but once again, there are larger 40mm variations if you do desire a larger watch. The rubber strap is nice and rubbery. I don't know what else to say to that. And it comes on a canvas strap that has this moldable, bendable construction, so you don't need to break in the canvas to perfectly round off your wrist. Massage it into place, and you're good to go. At this price point, there isn't a lot of watches that can compare to Vaer's 369 S3 Tradition watch, even after getting fucked by FedEx Customs, coming to a total of 250 Canadian dollars. There really isn't anything else that can quite compare to the Vaer S3 because there just isn't anything. However, if you don't mind Arabic numerals running around the entire dial marking every single hour marker, then you can always take a look at a classic Timex Weekender. Everyone knows them, everyone loves them. Bertucci also makes some pretty nice field watches, although I'm pretty sure they're all mostly larger, and I can't get over the fact that they use a 4 o'clock crown. If you want a bit of an upgrade with tritium lume, which basically means that you don't have to put it in the sun to recharge the luminescent material, you can take a look at the Marathon General Purpose Quartz. However, it comes in a plastic composite case, which may not be for everyone, and it's in a 34mm case size, which is even less desirable for those who want something larger. Furthermore, it has fixed spring bars, which means you can only wear NATO straps on it. And it's a 16mm NATO strap, so it's not like you can just walk to like the store and buy a NATO strap in 16mm. Who the hell makes 16mm? Anyway, the metal version, otherwise known as the Officer's Quartz, is a much better deal. However, it is basically like 3 times the price of the Vaer, so it might not be exactly comparable, to say the least. You could take a look at Koei Kyoto's Old Smith line, specifically the 90001, which is their first watch, and it comes in quartz, and it comes in many different dial and case variations, some in gold, some in silver, some with the green, some with Arabic, some without. At a more premium price are their automatics with sapphire crystals that have that vintage but rugged look to them. Now, if you're looking for a 369 watch and your budget is within the $1,000 range, the Microbrand space is your place to be. There are tons and tons of options for you to choose from, and most of them are going to be automatic, and they won't have the exclusivity of a modern or vintage Rolex Explorer. To begin, you can take a look at the Smith's Everest, which the name Smith's has been revived by a watch store known as Time Factors, and they've been using the name Smith as of lately to produce watches that are inspired by the olden days of Smith's Watch Company that went under many, many decades ago. The Smith's Everest comes in several different dial variations. My personal favorite is the honeycomb, but there's also a gilt dial and a patina dial, which can help quench all your unattainable vintage Explorer woes. Next, from the Microbrand Laurier, we have the Falcon, currently in its 3rd iteration, with the waffle dial and taking design languages from 3 acclaimed watches, namely the Omega Railmaster, the Rolex Explorer, and the Seiko Alpinist Laurel, gives us a watch with plenty of kick. For those spec elitists out there, be wary this watch comes with an acrylic crystal, but for those who don't mind the classic tones this brings, it is a very, very nice touch and gives the watch a very warm glow when you look down on it. Last but not least, but the biggest kicker in this category is the Trasca Venturer, which boasts a specially coated steel that is near impermeable to the most violent of scratches and nicks, and can be purchased in larger case size or in several different colorways. If you want something a little more premium, the Tudor Ranger can perhaps be your choice, as it's essentially a Rolex Explorer at a more attainable price and has a more vintage appearance compared to the modern, angular, and applied 369 numerals on the modern Explorer. However, in my opinion, the dial leaves much to be desired at this price point with as much flavor as a cup of flour. However, if Tudor is your deal and you love Tudor and you love the way it looks, by all means, go ahead, because it's your watch, not mine. This watch is an extremely versatile one, as it pairs very well with some smarter looks down to the most casual of fits. Namely, it's not bad with t-shirts and jeans, or hoodies and jeans, depending on the season you're in. Being a field watch, this pairs pretty well with any kind of military type of look, but I think it fits best with anything more grounded like a field jacket. Putting it on a NATO strap is plenty of fun, since now you'll be able to pair it with basically anything, though in my personal taste, don't get a bit too crazy with it as it may cheapen the look of the watch. But this allows you to strap it over a jacket sleeve, allowing you to either use this in tough conditions or make you feel like a lot cooler than you actually are. Like many watches of this style, workwear also pairs well with the Explorer. Leathers accent the watch pretty well, and you can try going for the old school hiker look with this watch if you'd prefer, which leads me to my next style. I'm not even sure if Gorpcore still exists, but regardless, if you're a hiker and enjoy hitting the trails or really like wearing hiking gear as your everyday companion, this watch is the perfect no-nonsense companion with your adventures. Overall, I reckon if you stick with earth tones, then you can wear this with pretty much anything. Thanks to its Photina luminescent material and dial, putting it up with a rustic color scheme complements everything in a cohesive overall palette. If you want browns, earth greens, tan, sand, khaki, basically any of those colors will fit the watch perfectly. Doesn't matter if you're going for an office look or if you're trying to be casual, as long as you stick with these specific color tones and stick with a certain palette, then you're going to be golden, and this watch will absolutely accent the outfit 1000%. I think that if you're specifically looking for a 369 watch and you don't mind that it's quartz, the Vaer can perfectly fill that role because there's literally nothing under like $500 that can really fit that. It's either a 6912 dial or it's 12369. I don't even know what you call those dials, but essentially if you just want a Rolex Explorer lookalike without the premium price tag, this is the watch to get. And the fact it comes in several different case sizes and it comes in several different movement versions, this is just the perfect watch. But if you're looking to just keep things simple, the S3 will be your cup of tea. It is extremely well finished, has a rugged sapphire crystal, runs on a no-nonsense quartz movement that'll run for years, and is immensely versatile on many different straps with a very handy 20mm lug width, meaning the whole world of watch straps is open to you. However, I'd have liked for it to have drilled lug holes to add on to that military field watch aesthetic, but it's no deal breaker for me. Unfortunately, though I do like this watch, I'm thinking I'm going to pass this on to the next owner. You see, I've come to realize that though it is a field watch, I already have one. That's the Hamilton I made a video on previously. You can argue that the two are entirely different facets of the watchmaking world, the W10 reissue being a pilot watch and the S3 being a field watch, but after all this time with the Vaer, I found that if I just move back and squint a little, the Hamilton achieves basically what I want in a field watch. It's rugged, it has brushed finishing, it has a black dial, Arabic numerals. The difference is the Hamilton has a hand-wound movement and a mineral crystal, which are both inferior to sapphire and a reliable quartz. Yet, I always reach for the Hamilton on most days. So, with a heavy heart, I must part ways with the Vaer S3 Tradition. I don't think a Rolex 1016 could quench that thirst that I had back then. I probably would have sold it as well, thinking about it at a pretty significant loss, but I realized that I just bought this watch just so I could say I owned a field watch. I didn't consider whether I really wanted one or whether I really wanted to own this watch in particular. I was just doing like a little checklist for the sake of owning things because someone out there said that you must own a field watch when it's all just down to personal tastes. In any case, I hope wherever the S3 goes next, it will go out into the big wide world, explore and venture to places not many go to, because it's what it deserves. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and don't get me wrong, Vaer is a great company and this watch is just so good, but at the end of the day, like, if I'm not wearing it, there's no point in me keeping a watch, right? It looks great, it has great specs, but I just don't wear it, you know? So I think that's just a part on me. So besides that, I hope you guys will seriously consider this watch and consider supporting Vaer because they do make some pretty good stuff. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and until next time, take care.